Good evening. Thank you for joining us again for a special version tonight of The Chancellor Presents. I have some wonderful guests that I'm thrilled about being with us tonight, and I'm so glad you could join us from far and wide. That's the beauty of the virtual and YouTube programs that we have, where folks from across the country, hello Jane and Dan out in Washington State, and others around the world can really beam in and watch this program. I hope you've got a big bucket of popcorn tonight because we're going to the movies. Well, okay, not quite. But we're going to talk a lot about movies. We're going to talk about the magic and what happens with respect to film, the great work of Milwaukee Film, and a couple of special alumni that we've got. I'm so proud to call these gentlemen alumni. I'm going to introduce them but in a moment, but let me just say that being a member of Milwaukee Film Board, it really is a special way to get to know these gentlemen and what they do and the impact that they have. And I'd also like to give a special shout out to our Milwaukee Film Board members who have joined us tonight, in addition to all our other friends of UW-Milwaukee in so many great ways. So tonight we're going to have some wonderful conversation with some gentlemen. Jonathan Jackson, who is the Executive Director, CEO of our Milwaukee Film, and Geraud Blanks. Geraud I'll introduce in a little more detail in a moment, but let me first talk a little bit about Jonathan. But before I do, guys, thank you for joining. How are you doing?
Pleasure to be here. It's a nice sunny day before, I think, a big snowstorm, but
Yes.
Love being in the residence.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Glad to have you.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I think the last time we had a program like this, folks, we were talking about the several inches of snow that Milwaukee was going to get, and I know how envious you are if you're not in this area of the great winters that we have here. Not everybody feels that way for some reason. Maybe I'm a little bit strange, but yeah, it is a beautiful day here in Milwaukee, and it's a special night because you two are here. So Jonathan,
Thank you.
Geraud, thank you for joining us, and you've really had this incredible impact on Milwaukee, and we're going to really get into how and why, and really the magic behind the scenes that have brought film to this community and all the impact in the different ways that it has, your vision, your work, and I'm really excited about this program tonight. So thank you again for joining us. So let me give a little background about Jonathan Jackson. Jonathan, he's the CEO of Milwaukee Film. He's led the organization since it began in 2008. Under his leadership, the nonprofit Milwaukee Film has become one of the largest film culture institutions in the country, and is comprised now of operating a top 10 film festival in the United States, a national historic landmark cinema operating 365 days a year, so there's no slow season now. It's all on all the time, as well as producing substantive youth education programs, artist serving and community serving programs year-round. So this is really the types of impact that I was describing. We're very proud that Jonathan majored in film in our Peck School of the Arts. He began his career as the curator of UW-Milwaukee's Union Cinema, all while serving as a student. He also ran the UWM Student Film and Video Festival. He's taught courses in the UW-Milwaukee's Film Department and has curated film programs for the Milwaukee Art Museum. I could go on quite a bit more, but I'll say as a rounding off achievement, what I would describe as mid-career, last year Jonathan received the Distinguished Alumni Achievement Award from the UWM Alumni Association. Welcome, Jonathan.
My pleasure to be here.
Great. Tonight, also joining us is Geraud Blanks. Geraud is the Chief Innovation Officer at Milwaukee Film. Geraud began his undergraduate journey at UWM in the late 90s, and then, like many UWM students, he took some time off. He worked full-time, tried different career paths, and ultimately came back to UWM to finish his degree in mass communication and journalism. He didn't stop there, though. He went on to earn his master's degree in media studies from UWM, and today he's working on his PhD at Northwestern University. Pretty impressive educational credentials, pretty impressive life journey, Geraud. Neat. Geraud's been instrumental in starting the Black Lens program, which is now a nationwide series for African American cinema, and he's also started film programs that promote cultural inclusivity, health equity, and much more. Last week, the UWM Alumni Association awarded Geraud a Graduate of the Last Decade, or what we call a Gold Award, for his accomplishments. And again, I would describe you as mid-career or maybe a little earlier in your career. Gentlemen, welcome. I'm really excited about having this conversation tonight. Should we jump into the questions?
I think it's time.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. So first, before we get too far into the Milwaukee film workings, let's just stand back and talk just a little bit about film and movies. You've both been attracted and drawn to this. Jonathan, I know that we've talked many times about why you came here and the importance of film and movies in your life. But help for our listening audience, bring that to life a little bit. What is the magic of movies? What is the effect and the importance of them really on viewers?
Well, I'm biased, but I personally think it's the leading art form of our time. But even more than the art, film has such a unique potential to connect with an audience. Roger Ebert called it an empathy machine. The power of cinema and the power of concentration you have as a viewer for that hour and a half of time or 2 hours or hour is so extraordinary and profound as you sit with this created object, whether it's documentary or fiction. And then for me, everything Milwaukee Film does, it's the film that we put on screen, it's all the people that we get to come see it, but then it's about how we catalyze that energy. And so we are really an organization that is just trying to catalyze the power of film. And for me personally, film has been instrumental in my life story. It's sort of given me purpose, given me grounding, and I couldn't be more passionate about what I do.
Well, I'm so inspired. I'm ready to run off and go see a movie right now, even without the popcorn in front of me. That's great. Geraud, how about you? What's your view on the importance, the impact of film and movies?
I think it's important for people to see themselves. Film, it was how I understood the world, growing up, right? And I think for a lot of people, that is maybe their first sort of touch point with the outside world, especially for kids, for youth that don't get to travel, right? Don't have the privilege of traveling. Film is really how you see the world. And for me, growing up, it was me and my mother, and every weekend we went to see a movie. And every weekend, my sort of possibilities opened up, and I joke that you know how when you're younger people ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up, which is an odd question for a child, but every week it would change for me. Go see a movie, I wanted to be a martial artist. Next week it was a firefighter. It all depended on what movie my mother took me to see. And it wasn't until middle school where I started to realize maybe it's less about it's the idea of film and visual storytelling that I was really into. The movies, they come and go, but it was just being able to see myself as the Karate Kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, great perspective, great thought. I warned these gentlemen beforehand that I was going to probably jump off the script a little bit here and there, and your answers actually inspire me to ask you this question. You remind me, particularly Geraud, your story about going to the movies on a weekly basis. It was a big deal, and I remember when I would go to movies, it was exceptional. It was not like we go every week or anything. It was like every once in a while. I remember those movies that I went to and how formative they were, to your point. But I think about technology and today, the accessibility that we have, and do you think that has taken anything away? Or is it actually, no, it's increased access and people can view it so many different ways and it's a good thing? Or does it take, if I watch 10 films a week, does it lessen that effect? So roles of technology, pro and con, or is it, any thoughts on that, starting with Geraud?
It's funny. I got into Netflix and streaming much later than everybody else because I'm kind of a traditionalist, old school guy.
Yeah.
I love the smell of popcorn. I love the communal space that the cinema offers. But man, the pandemic.
Yeah.
I was forced to embrace,
exactly.
Right? And I love sitting on the couch with my wife on the weekends when the kids are gone. and binge watching.
Yeah.
That has become my new favorite activity. So there's that part of it that I love. But no, nothing beats, like, everyone's first date, probably, right? Everybody remembers going when that big film comes out and you and your friends, like, you can't replace that ever.
Yeah. Jonathan, any thoughts on that? Technology impact on film's effect?
I think about it every day, and I think it's additive. I think that, media, and it's not just like a film that's released in theaters, but media is everywhere. It's in our hands, and it's in youth's hands, whether we want it to be or not. Visual communication is the language that we now use, and children and youth are growing up with that in their hands. And so, to me, that accessibility is profound and exciting. Now, you have to extend it to the experience of going to the movies. To me, I'm same with Geraud, where there's nothing like the cinema experience, and what we're investing in at Milwaukee Film is extraordinary with the theater we have, the National Historic Landmark Oriental Theater. It's one of a kind in the world. It's a special, special experience, but nothing reinforces sort of my hope, my faith in the future of cinema than, say, our education screenings program. When we bring in 1,000 first through third graders in together, all from different schools throughout the city, to go see a hand-picked series of short films or a film, first they're like gawking at just like, what is this palace? Whose house is this that we just walked into? And then to have such fun and excitement in that packed house watching cinema they've never seen before. And it's like the most talked about field trip or event the entire year for that school. And it's just, it's something that is irreplaceable. And for me, it is, there's a solitary experience we have each in our own little heads with that movie, but then it's the shared experience and talking about it, and again, how you catalyze it. But I love technology and how it's just created so much more accessibility.
And sure has helped us get through the pandemic, as Geraud pointed out, and yet we're through the pandemic enough that you can bring those things back and have the experiences in person again. And of course, we still have the choices if we want to stay home. So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about this big event that's coming up. We have the Milwaukee Film Festival, April 20th through May 4th. Just first of all, give us a little background. We've got a lot of viewers who may know certain things about it, but some who, this is maybe the first time they've really got this in-depth immersion. What's the Milwaukee Film Festival about, first of all?
Well, it's one of the largest of its kind in the country. This is the 15th year of the Milwaukee Film Festival, which is an anniversary. But this is a full-on immersion into the best of film today. And what is unique about it is that it's an arts event. It's a major arts event. We partner throughout the community to produce both the screenings, all the connections with partners and sponsors, and it's an event you go to see great cinema, to see entertaining cinema, cinema that'll make you cry, cinema that'll make you think, cinema that'll just make you laugh. There's truly something for everyone in it. And it's the energy of a festival atmosphere. And there's like one of 300 films that you can go see. It's in multiple cinemas across the city. It takes an army to put it together. Our staff is now over 100 as we build into the festival and launch the festival. And it's just something that, go see a movie with 1,000 people together at the Oriental Theater that you haven't heard of before. There's nothing like that. I love, just one side note, like one of the things people love to talk about is the lines. And I mean, what organization is happy about lines? But people love standing in the lines, like queuing around the block and talking to people about the different films they've seen. Yeah. And so it's such a fun activity. It's a centerpiece for the community annually, and just can't be more excited than to have moved past, some of the challenges of the last few years.
One of my challenges with the film festival is there's so many great films, and finding, just narrowing it down because
Yeah.
there's so many great choices.
I always recommend, you're not always able to go see a movie,
Yeah.
is figure out the times that you could go and then see what's playing during
Right.
then, and then you can find them. And then also, you can always reach out to me and I'll give you a tip.
There you go. Okay. And you had this neat service last year where you actually provided some suggestions, and that was very helpful. Geraud, your take on kind of the big picture. What is the film festival beyond what Jonathan already shared here?
This year is going to be exciting. We had to go virtual, right? And then it's funny, but the pandemic was tough for everyone, and tougher for some than others. But there were also opportunities. So, like as you talk about the idea of being virtual now, something that I never really even considered pre-pandemic, and now most of my meetings are virtual, and I can talk to people around the country, which is great. But it's not great for a film festival. I mean, as Jonathan and I discussed, we want people in the cinema. We don't want them watching our films at home. So we had the virtual festival. We moved to the spring, which was also a big adjustment, right? Everyone has been so used to fall. I'm still talking to people who are not fully, they haven't wrapped their minds around that we are in the spring. We're no longer in the fall, right? So we've had to navigate those two things over the last couple of years, but now I feel like this is the first year in some time that I feel like we're getting back to normal, right? 2019 was a great year for the festival. I mean, it was one of our best festivals. We're now in 2023, and I feel like we're starting to get back to that feeling from 2019. So I'm excited.
Well, this is great. Let's dive a little more specifically in. Jonathan talked about 300 films.
Mm-hmm.
How do those get picked? There's thousands of films in the world every year that are coming out. How do you get to 300?
Well, we are a heavily curated festival. So yes, absolutely. We have a call for entries. Anyone can submit to the festival. But we are also a festival that strives to show our audience in Milwaukee truly a best of selection of national, international cinema, fiction, documentary, all types of films. And so our team, and we have a large team of programmers, go to film festivals, research all the films playing at festivals, research all the films winning awards globally, and we sort of handpick all these, and we watch a ton of movies in the office to pick these films. And so generally, most of the films come through that curation process. But at the same time, we have a call for entries. We get about 1,000 entries through that. And through that process, we consider every single one of those films as well. And a lot of, say, like the local films, and we have a huge local section in our festival, and we're really proud of that. It's actually much larger than what you'll see at other film festivals around the country. And audiences come out to it, and the work is great. And that all comes from the submissions that come into the festival. But it's a team of programmers that, it's not a science, but we strive for a bar of quality. We strive to satisfy an audience, and we try to diversify it. So, one of the challenges you'll get sometimes is, and I get that I've had experiences going to film festivals, especially in Europe, and I've watched like 2 days in a row, 6 movies in a row, both days, and they're all incredibly depressing films about, challenging global subject matters, and you're just like, I can't do it anymore. And so what you got to do is you got to balance that and curate it and showcase some of those which are vital, but also romantic comedies and goofball films and documentaries about dogs and all sorts of different things. So you really try to mix it up, and that's up to the whole programming team.
Yeah. So Jonathan, I'm going to shift to Geraud and ask a little variation on that. What are some of the qualities that you look at when you're deciding which films to show?
So that it's really interesting, right? Because to Jonathan's point, joy is one of the sort of key attributes of the work that we do, right? So whether it's a film festival, whether, whatever the event is, we're always trying to be mindful of the celebratory aspect of what we do. So there are going to be those more depressing films, right? The films that are really confronting important subject matter. And then there are just going to be the fun films, right? The films for kids, right? The films that make you laugh. And so it's really about diversity. And it's funny because you hear that term and now it's sort of aligned with a very specific sort of socio-cultural idea. But when we say diversity, we just mean we want diversity of thought, we want diversity in the audience, and we want a diversity of emotions. Mm-hmm. So you can go find that film, you can go find the film to nerd out, right? Because that's one of the things. I remember I was a fan of the festival way before I ever started working there. And so I loved the ability to go and just nerd out because there were so many options, it was so diverse. I could find the things that I could take my wife to, could take my mother to, and then the ones I could just go to by myself. And so that's really the key is we want people to sort of immerse themselves in films for 2 weeks, right? And again, like I said, we have films, we have our cinephiles, the people that are just hardcore film lovers, and then we have those casual folks. And it's a spectrum. Everybody can find something. That's the key.
This is great because I know a lot of our audience members are very curious about how did we get to those particular films, mm-hmm. and so between the two of you, you've really helped flesh that out. So in that same vein, this is considered, the Milwaukee Film Festival is considered the largest arts event that happens in this community mm-hmm. of the year. Tell me a little bit about what goes on behind the scenes, maybe a little bit about marketing, you talked about the number of theaters. Let's talk mm-hmm. a little bit more about that, volunteers. How does this work to put this on? You talked about what a big production it is. Jonathan, you want to start on that?
Sure. I mean, it's what's unique is, Milwaukee Film with operating the theater and running our youth education programs, artist services, everything that we do. We're a staff of, around 60 year-round. And we literally more than double in size to put on the film festival annually because of all of the additional staff required. Some start 8 months in advance, 7 months in advance, 6 months in advance, 5 months in advance, and it just keeps building and building and building and growing until the office is just like bursting at the seams with such talented team members from around the country and here locally. But you're talking about an event that at any one point has an event happening in potentially 8 or 9 different locations every single day at the same time on a rigid schedule that has to have people get in the room, leave the room, has to run smoothly, incredible technical logistics to all of it. We're operating in spaces that we don't control normally, so we have to work with their teams and staff. And all of these require just, tremendous operational planning and logistics, and none of it could happen without volunteers. Yeah. It starts with the incredible board of directors and the leadership and guidance they provide, and it continues to the volunteers who take tickets at the theater for us or collect ballots and count them for us. We've had years with over 400 volunteers who work on the festival. And then you talk about the partnerships. Milwaukee Film has a member base of over 3,000 individuals now. We have a sponsor and supporter base in the hundreds. And it's this true community coming together to put this whole event and energy into Milwaukee. And it's a celebration. So, but it is a lot more than just popcorn and movies.
It absolutely is. There's nothing really else quite like it. I think, as you were talking, I'm thinking about a lot of events that, certain things you gear up for. The Super Bowl is once. It's a day. It's a few hours in a day. The Indy 500, 6 or 8 hours in a day. The closest I could come to is maybe the Olympics. In terms of sustained simultaneous events that are happening spread across different areas. And that's what we've got, folks. It's really the Olympics of this country in terms of one of the leading film festivals that these gentlemen lead.
And I just would add a point there on a local correlation. You can think of like Summerfest. But what I like to say is this is like Summerfest in the streets of Milwaukee. As scattered throughout and with that type of activity. And that's, Summerfest is or was the largest music festival in the world. We're striving for that same type of status long term as a truly world-class organization and festival.
Yeah, and as Geraud pointed out, some diverse locations, diverse ways to approach it too, in terms of all the different geography that's involved. So, Geraud, how would you address this question about the behind-the-scenes type of thing? What do you see in terms of anything else beyond what Jonathan covered on that front?
So, the marketing of the festival, because you mentioned marketing, and my ears perked up because we have a team now that I think is phenomenal. This is probably the largest sort of marketing group that we've had. Designers, communications director, PR. We've got all the pieces, and what is sort of exciting this year is, I don't know, have you seen our billboard?
I've seen the art that's going to go into it, but I haven't seen the billboard.
Okay, so we've got a massive billboard above Von Trier, which is, I was staking that out for a year, because it literally, it was like 9 months. I had to order it 9 months ahead of time. But I was excited because this is the thing. I remember, again, fan before employee. I remember coming down North Avenue, and it wasn't that billboard, it was another billboard, and I remember across the street, I think above Hooligans or whatever, not Hooligans, I forgot the name of it, but it had the Milwaukee Film Festival art, and that for me was like, it was just amazing, and it just, and then you turn and you see the Oriental Theater and you see the long line, like it's the aesthetic, it's the vibe, right? And that's a big part of my job, is I oversee marketing, and I love it. I love the wow factor. I love seeing people excited, and I love just all of the work that goes into creating the messaging and the content that you see. It's beautiful, and it's a work of art, right? Yeah. So I'm not involved in the programming. My job is, we have the programming, now how do we message it to people? And that's where my degree in mass communications and media studies comes into play, because it's like, okay, we got these great films. How do we get people interested? How do we tell the story about the film? So this year I'm just excited because this team, we're getting a couple new folks next week. This team is going to be amazing, and it's just great to see that creative process of thinking through, how do we tell the story of what this year's festival is, and I think it's going to be some of our best work.
Neat. I'm excited. Milwaukee Film viewing rooms and the viewing parties here tonight. You just got some great props. Great job. So as we talk about that location, let's talk a little bit more about spaces. We've got something mighty special at Milwaukee Film. And you've both talked about it a little bit, but I'd like to dive in and talk a little bit more about the Oriental Theater. It's really been the anchor in so many different ways since it began. And that's the heart of things. And so since 2018, Milwaukee Film has taken over the operations at the Oriental Theater. Why is this theater, why is it so important? Why is it a touchstone, really the foundation for what we're doing?
Well, it's the reason Milwaukee Film has grown as it has. I mean, our connection to that 1,000-seat main house at the Oriental Theater is what had just skyrocketed the growth of both the Milwaukee Film Festival and our membership program. And without that, we're a much smaller festival and organization with much smaller ambitions. But what happened was there were some challenges with the current tenant and our relationship, and it was precarious whether or not every year we would be able to secure the film festival dates. And so working with the board, community leadership, we embarked on a path to secure either ownership or through long-term lease, incredibly long-term lease. We wanted to control that so that we had assurance on the festival, and then we can expand year-round the work we do. And it ended up becoming much bigger than that, because this is the Oriental Theater, a 1927 built, one-of-a-kind, exotic movie palace. And we led a campaign with the board of directors and our campaign cabinet and fundraised for $10 million. We spent $6.25 million actually restoring this landmark, the Oriental Theater. And I'm just beyond elated that on February 1st, we officially received our National Historic status as a landmark building, which is, it's so fitting, it's so deserved
It is.
For that building. But we're the custodians of this now. And we have a great partnership with the ultimate owner of the building, New Land Enterprises, but we have a 49-year lease, and we're doing everything in our power to make that the single greatest cinema and cinema experience in the country, if not the world. And that power of that 1,000-seat house is the biggest draw.
Well, congratulations on that registry work. That is amazing. It's an icon. There's no question about it. How does it differ from other film festivals? Do most film festivals, those that are really competing with us, so to speak, those that are in the top 10, top 15, do they also have a home-based theater, or is that truly one of the differentiators for us?
It's a big differentiator. There's only a couple of film festivals that also have a cinema that they operate year-round, and certainly no festival has a cinema with the grandeur of the Oriental Theater. There's really only a couple parallel organizations in the country. There's the SIFF, the Seattle International Film Festival, the Denver Film Society, the Mill Valley Institute, or the California Institute in Mill Valley. But there's no organization in the country, literally today, that is working in all the different ways we are, that has also the signature cinema venue in the region, and I would argue in the country. So it's a really special, it's a special dynamic that we're still we only acquired it in 2018, late 2018, and then we had 2 years of interruption from COVID. So we're still getting our feet under us there, and we just can't wait for the rest of this year to play out, because we're really optimistic about the full return of audiences as the content slate picks up, because due to the pandemic, there was actually a large decrease in the amount of films that are in release, and the projections are that is going to increase come this summer and fall, and we're certainly seeing it in the content for this year's festival, which is, I think, as strong as any festival we've programmed.
Excellent. Geraud, to you, from your view, with the takeover of operations, and I don't mean that in a hostile sense, but now that we've got control from the operational aspect, how has that changed Milwaukee Film in terms of the full operations ownership, the types of things that Jonathan described in terms of where we're at today?
What's interesting about the space, right, is it has a 1,000-seat auditorium, and there are very few places you can go to see a film with 1,000 people, right? So that's very special. Obviously, people are wild when they come into the building, right? But the ability to show films and host, curate events year-round, it changes everything, right? But because before, we hosted the festival at the Oriental for 2 weeks, and then that was it, right? Now, we just had a free community screening the other day for the Van Jones film, the first step. So packed house for that, and those are the type of events now that we offer routinely. Free community screenings where we can put a great film that people otherwise wouldn't have access to. We can put it on screen. We have the ability to provide these sorts of events for free, and a large part of that is due to our amazing sponsors, donors, partners, right? And that's just something you can't do if you don't have control over your own space, and that is huge. I'll also say that main house, the Abley Cinema, there's so much. It's still untapped in terms of what we can do. There's actually an event that we just confirmed today for Wednesday, May 30th, that I think will be a great example of what the main house can do, even beyond showing films.
You heard it here, folks, first. Yes.
But it doesn't sound like he's going to tell us what
No.
it is.
No.
Official announcement will be next week.
Okay. All right.
But
May
it's
30th.
exciting.
May 30th.
Really exciting.
Ears are pricked.
Yeah.
Great. So I'm going to shift gears. We've been talking a lot about Milwaukee Film, the festival, the Oriental Theater, but there's so much more to what Milwaukee Film does. And so I'd like to explore some of those things. I'm going to go through 3 or 4 different areas. I don't know who's going to be the best to lead off with each one, but let's start with artists and what you do to support, promote, engage artists in the Milwaukee community and beyond. Who'd like to start on that one?
I'll start.
Okay.
You know, I have a background, you know, went to film to study as an artist. That's what brought me to UWM from out of state. And, you know, if you think about it, a film festival, it's nothing without the film content. And the film content is made by artists. Most cultural institutions that sort of do performances or showcase art, you know, they have a supportive incubator type relationship automatically with the artists they work with. Like, they're employed by them. But for film festivals, it's not that way. You show the work. And there was this weird dynamic in the film festival world where there was a long time when festivals were like to filmmakers, you're lucky if we show your work. And Milwaukee Film is a true industry leader and trendsetter in flipping the paradigm and actually prioritizing the relationship with filmmakers. And we've done so many things to establish ourselves nationally as a filmmaker-friendly festival. We pay for all the content we put on screen, which at the time we did that a couple of years ago was unheard of in the industry. We offer as many people as possible to come and pay for their travel and hospitality. We had a program where we don't charge entry fees for the festival. We also provide major cash awards. And so a lot of what we do in artist serving is, you know, we realize that these artists are the content providers for what we put on screen, and then putting their work on screen is our way to celebrate their work. But then when you talk about the local scene, it's like, what can a cultural institution for film, you know, what is its best purpose to support this community? And we have grappled with this over the years, and we did a strategic planning process in 2014, and what we came to was funding. There is a funding gap for artists in our community, simply putting money in the hands of an artist to make work. And so we created the Forward Fund. And this is now a program that's run 6 years, and it provides annually $100,000 in cash grants for films in pre-production, production, post-production, along with $100,000 plus in donated services from camera rental companies, lawyers, etc. And what happens is that a lot of the funding received is the first funding that a film receives. And then it becomes sort of a, hey, I've got a strong enough film and idea here that other people then fund it, other grants fund it, and it's led to films that have won awards at international film festivals. The film Give Me Liberty, we were the first funder of, was theatrically released in 43 countries around the world. And that funding incubator program is critical to how we support and grow artists in our community. And it's one of my pet peeves is there's so many conversations about how to make this a vibrant creative economy or support artists in Milwaukee, and we have all these different things going on. But I'll tell you, you just put a dollar in the hand of an artist and it goes much further than anything else you can do. And that's what our Forward Fund is a testament to.
Well, what you've helped create in this region is an industry, when we think about film and film movie production, that's pretty impressive. There was a study that came out some years back, and I don't have the numbers at my disposal, but I think about between the film majors that come out of UWM, which is one of our fastest growing large programs on our campus, and then the types of incubator, the kind of sponsorship, putting those together has created an industry that actually surpasses in revenue and employment the brewing industry in Wisconsin.
True statement.
The numbers are staggering. I mean, this is something that people in Wisconsin know, the size and scale of brewing historically. It's pretty phenomenal. So that's, and we're going to come back to UWM in a moment. But Geraud, I've got a question for you. When we talk about the role and the impact of the work that you're doing, you mentioned earlier diversity and kind of a reframing of diversity in the context of film and what is meant. Let's talk a little bit also about inclusivity. What does that mean, and how do you see Milwaukee Film helping with inclusivity in the community?
I think first and foremost, it means access. Do people have access? And access doesn't just mean, is it free and is it open to the public, right? Like that's part of, sometimes, it becomes a game of semantics. Well, yeah, it's accessible to everybody because it's open. Well, no, there's so much more that goes into access. Can people literally access it? Can they get to the location, right? Can they afford the event? And frankly, are you curating a screening or event that speaks to people? And a big part of my job is to consider that in everything we do, right? I'll give you a great example. I'm working with the Milwaukee Brewers on a film and conversation series we have called Engage and Activate. And I've been working with their staff for a while, but now I get to work with some of the players. So really exciting, right? They're gonna Zoom me in to spring training in Arizona. Nice. I'm gonna talk with a room full of major and minor leaguers, right? And their coaches will all be there. Well, they have quite a few players where English is their second language, or not at all. And I picked the perfect film for this talk, but it doesn't have Spanish subtitles, right? And so inclusivity means that film doesn't work. Access means I got to go find a film that allows for the non-English speaking players to be able to enjoy the conversation and engage in the same way that the other players do. That's what inclusivity is about. That's what access is about. And there's a lot of lip service when it comes to inclusivity. Like it's popular now to talk about how inclusive you are. It's a verb. You know what I mean? Like you have to do it. Yeah. And so for us, it's all about opening up our spaces. Like I said, we have a ton of free events and free screenings that we offer throughout the year. It's about opening up our space and making sure that people know this is a home for you. And if I can just be very candid, I think it's why so many people in the community come to us first to have their events, to do sort of these out of the box things that you're not going to do at other theaters because that's not what they do, right? They're going to give you the Star Wars or the Black Panther movie, and that's what they do. We do all of the other things that no one else can do, and that's where I think we are really leading the charge in terms of thinking about inclusive spaces, right? How can we do things that service the whole community? right? That's the key.
Neat. Jonathan, did that start and really have an inflection point with Geraud, or has that long been, for 15 years, part of Milwaukee Film?
Well, it's an interesting story because you think film festival, you think international, you know, you do automatically think like diversity. Oh, you've got films from around the world, but yet you go to any film festival conference in the world of all the film festival staffs and the film festival leadership and the boards, and there's no diversity. Mm. And you know, that has slowly started to change. But then you also look at the audience for film festivals. And historically, the audience for film festivals is largely the same as the audience, and there's nothing wrong with this, but the audience is the same as the one for the art museum or the symphony, and you know, it's very identifiable. But you have to intentionally work on and build and grow. And there was an inflection point that happened. And I love the fact that Geraud was actually not on staff, but in the audience for this screening. And it was a Milwaukee's own George Tillman Jr. directed film that screened in the 2013 Milwaukee Film Festival, The Inevitable Defeat of Mr. and Pete. And we had 1,000 people there at the Oriental Theater, and it was the first time that there was truly a fully diverse house in there. And I was like, this is actually possible. Mm. And working with a longtime person, a longtime friend who's a UWM graduate, Dr. Dante McFadden, conceived of and initiated the next year the idea of doing a series just about African American filmmakers. Wow. Centering on not just the representation on screen, but on black filmmakers. And immediately, Dr. McFadden was like, we gotta bring Geraud into this. And so ever since then, in 2014, we started intentionally working on building these spaces, these audience efforts, and it's grassroots. And yeah, it's been shocking to me to realize how many people have never stepped foot inside the Oriental Theater before, and you know, didn't realize it was a space that was for them. And that's taken hard work, and with the visionary leadership of Geraud, it's transformed the audience for Milwaukee Film.
Well, this is great, and what a wonderful testament, Geraud, to you and Jonathan, really going back to the DNA that really began Milwaukee Film, going back to 2013 and being able to pull that out. So I imagine, you know, in the context of how you reinforce that, your work with youth education and teachers is really setting the stage for future generations of film, but also reinforcing both of your perspectives. Who'd like to talk a little bit more about what you do with youth education and teachers? Who'd start on that?
I can go just, you know, I had mentioned before, we have this wonderful education screenings program where 1st through 3rd, 4th through 6th, 6th through 8th, and then high school, there's different films for each of those groups. What's wonderful now is we just did it during the festival historically, but now that we have the Oriental Theater, we've had education screenings this week at the Oriental Theater in the morning, and we do these throughout the year, create curriculum that ties the state core teaching standards. And it's a field trip, it's an education experience, it's an invigorating experience, but then we also go into the classroom. We bring filmmakers into the classroom in a Real Talks program. We also have a program where we educate and work with teachers, and that's our program, the Melinda Cry Educator Fellowship, where we're compounding our impact by working with middle school, high school, even college teachers in making sure that they're instilled with the current best practices of media literacy education, how you read visual media and how you teach reading visual media. And that's sort of, you know, that's our sweet spot.
So there's a lot there. It's about exposure, it's about early immersion, but it's also a lot of work getting up to speed to understand DPI standards around curriculum development. This is truly branching out. I know we could explore and go down into that a little bit more, but I do want to, I got the signal there in terms of our time turning a corner here. I want to talk just a little bit about UWM and its influence. Jonathan, you mentioned earlier it's what brought you from out of state, if I remember right, Ohio, in terms of roots.
Correct.
and you came here some time ago working with a prominent faculty. Can you talk a little bit about your experience and how it has influenced you?
Yeah, I mean, it's been extraordinary. I moved here in '98 specifically to go to the UWM film program. The program was chaired by Dick Blau at the time. He became my primary mentor. And I thought I knew, what art filmmaking was before I came here. And I just, my mind was expanded. I loved the work that I did as a student here. I was so invested in it. But then how UWM impacted me, it was both the education, it was the mentorship, the other students, but then it was also the work opportunities. And as you mentioned, first I started as a projectionist at the UWM Union Cinema, and then I took over running the theater and programming it. And that was the colossal shift for me. And so I did that as an undergraduate student, but what it did was I started seeing these movies that we were showing that nobody in Milwaukee was seeing. And I'm like, how in the world are these amazing films not finding an audience?
Yeah.
And that's what gave me my purpose in life, which is, find and curate the best programs possible, but if there aren't butts in seats for it, it doesn't mean anything. And so that's where all the business and the operations and everything else comes in. But UWM Film Department, it worked on it expanded my ability to think and to how to think and approach the art form, and then the professional practice with being able to work in the union was just extraordinary. I also ran the Student Film Festival and led the Student Film and Video Club, and realized I could get student segregated fees to do fun things. Took some field trips with that. That was a little fun. I know Geraud got in some trouble with that kind of stuff too. But I don't know. My experience at UWM, I never thought I'd stay in Milwaukee. And I don't know, raising a family, love to be here.
We're so fortunate, I'm proud that we had a little bit of part in your success, but truly you've got entrepreneurial energy, you've got vision, and we're just proud to have you as an alum. Geraud, UWM's influence on you?
Well, like I said, I use so much of the training and knowledge that I acquired in, it was called mass communications when I originally went, but now, when I originally enrolled years ago, but now it's media studies. Well, it's JAMS, and then I was the media studies part, right? And, that just really prepared me for the work I do now, and even, it's funny because even the PhD, I guess because I'm older and wiser, I finally understand what my mother and all of my teachers were telling me, right? When I was complaining about this or that. But it's weird because now it all comes full circle. And I just realize how much everything I've learned comes into play in the work that I do. And a lot of people that know me know my story, right? Like I enrolled in 1996, and I didn't get my undergrad degree until 2014, 13, whatever. And so that journey really, really built me into the man that I am today. UWM is where I honed all of these skills, running around campus doing events, right? Putting on events with Dr. McFadden, right? And that's why he knew to call me for Black Lens, because of all the stuff we had done. Some of it legendary. It started, learning how to fundraise started at UWM, right? I got my first Bader grant at UWM, right? I got in trouble. That's what Jonathan's talking about. I got in trouble for that. But it all started here. And now it's amazing. When I was at the awards, getting the gold award, it was so, I was at my table, I had one of my mentors and professors, David Pritchard, Dr. Pritchard, and it was just so weird, all of this coming full circle, going from, not a very good student to now being awarded, as an alumni. So UWM was just, it just gave me resources and access to a lot of the things that now help me do my work.
Wow, what a powerful transformation story. And you're like a lot of our students. There's a lot of off-ramps and on-ramps.
Mm-hmm.
Life happens. And you've just benefited our community and benefited our campus. And like you, Jonathan, we're so proud of both of you and your stories, and the small parts that we've played, UWM has played, is something that it's why we exist. It's just so important to us. I'm going to turn a corner and wrap this up by thanking you really seriously for spending your time with us. The richness of your answers, the depth that you gave us really is exciting to hear. It's fascinating to know what you've done and really think about the future, what its impact is going to continue to have, and I just can't wait to see what the next 3, 5, and many more years bring to Milwaukee, given your leadership. That's wonderful for us to have. So, audience, thank you again for joining us tonight. I hope that your spring is enjoyable, and that you stay tuned for our next program. It's going to be on April 11th, where we're going to have Milwaukee's own Dan Egan, who's an author who spent time at School of Freshwater Science. His latest book is called, pull it out, I believe it just came out yesterday. It's called The Devil's Element: Phosphorus in a World Out of Balance. He, like the gentleman we talked to tonight, has great relations with UWM and continues to find ways to use the partnership to expand others' knowledge. And so once again, thank you. Look forward to seeing you soon. And just a final thank you. I'm going to continue to think about and reflect on our conversation for a long time. So thank you again, Geraud, Jonathan, and good luck with everything that you're doing and the run-up here coming up April 20th through May 4th for the Milwaukee Film Festival. Thanks again.
Thank you, Mark.
Great.